Okay, sorry about that. Still getting used to all of this. So Rebecca McGinnis is a senior museum educator of the Access and Community Programs at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And she's going to share with us their efforts to get their Metascapes program and perhaps their Memory Cafe online and to tell you about those programs. So thank you, Rebecca, and welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, Meredith. It's really nice to be here. So I'm just going to share my screen. Can you see my screen now? Are you able to see my screen now? Yeah, okay, good. Okay. So, yes, as Meredith mentioned, I wanted to talk with you about our how we've transformed our programming to a virtual platform, which has been, and continues to be very challenging for all of us. Um, just to give you some context, have a couple of programs and partnerships, collaborations for visitors with dementia and their care partners at the Met. There's Metascapes, which some of you might be familiar with, which is a roughly bi-weekly program. And then I am going to be telling you about our new Met Memory Cafe. We also have about 10 partnerships with organizations. Some are residential locations, and some are day programs. Yeah, we also work with Arts and Minds, which some of you might be familiar with, to host and collaborate on programs, different sorts of programs in different formats. And then I'll also be telling you a bit about some of the, what we're planning really for resources to use on the Met's website, and eventually when we reopen again to use in the museum as a sort of independent guide to the museum.
Hi, Rebecca. I'm sorry to interrupt. Would you mind speaking a little bit louder?
Sure, sure. I think my microphone is very good on this computer. I'm sorry. Okay, is that better? Can you hear me better now, Meredith?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good. So Metascapes, as I mentioned, is an ongoing scheduled program. It's free. It has different formats, mainly gallery tours, and then art making, studio art making, and then sessions where we explore works of art through touch, using our touch collection. And some of the key hallmarks, or things that we think are really important to the success of these programs is well, the small group size, so one educator with a small number of people, the interactivity, having a conversation about that's really based on observation of works of art that we're looking at in front of us, activities that are that engage multiple senses, and so we after the museum closed on March 13th, we really had to think about how to maintain those important elements for success in this new virtual format. And we decided that first and foremost, the maintaining that sense of community, familiarity, was the first goal, really, just to get people together, to help people get used to being on Zoom, on virtual programs, and to to relieve some of the isolation that we're all feeling at this time, and even more so a few months ago. So I have here on the screen an image of a Metascapes program in the galleries. And then on the right, there is an image of um, some conversation that's part of Metascapes now on Zoom. So this example, neither example kind of foregrounds works of art, but um, I'll show you some images that show how we focus on works of art. So another really an opportunity we found when we changed to the virtual format was really an opportunity to help people focus in on a detail, or blow up an image of a work of art so we could get a detail of it, or put two works of art next to each other that aren't next to each other in the gallery, so we can talk about the collection in different ways. So here on the screen now we have a group in the galleries talking about art, and it's surrounded by three screenshots from virtual programs. So in one on the bottom left, we show a detail of a painting, and we're here, honing in on what's happening, trying to figure out what are all those hands doing. Now someone's getting their pocket. Really just blow up a detail and talk about that. And then here also we're showing an individual work of art, or those two works of art together that we wouldn't get to talk about together necessarily had we been in the gallery. So there are some real advantages to this online format. And this is actually an example, I admit, from another program for a different audience, but it's very similar to what we do in Metascapes, and we have used this theme. So here we have, this was from a program focusing on the Met Cloisters gardens, and so we talked about the unicorn tapestry, which is one of the most popular, famous works of art at the cloisters. And here there's a detail, and I'm just showing this detail so you can see all the many flowers blooming there, and also the way we've highlighted, very crudely here, but with the sort of the Zoom feature where you can draw on a work of art to highlight the initials A and E that are entwined there in the branch of this tree. The flowers at the bottom are flowers that are in the gardens at the Met Cloisters, and they were actually taken by the gardeners a few days before this program, and also the Metascapes program that we did on the same theme. And they were really focusing on showing us flowers that are also blooming in the tapestry. So we have the flowers in the garden and the flowers in this woven work of art from the cloisters. And it was really great to have those different perspectives on the collection, on the museum, on the cloisters, because the gardens at the cloisters are designed as medieval gardens. So we learned a lot about those, and I think people are missing the outdoors too, right? And the sunshine. So it was nice to see some nature on the screen. Another thing that we felt was really important to maintain was the kind of interactivity and sensory component of the program, which really helps people to connect with works of art. So here, these are some screenshots from actually one of the first Metascapes programs that we did virtually. Again, focusing on that painting there was a detail of in the previous slide, Georges de la Tour's The Fortune Teller, where in the painting people are wearing these elaborate clothes, they're wearing hats of all different kinds, and so we invited participants to come to the program with accessories, hats and scarves and things that they could wear to transform themselves and kind of even disguise their identity. And so there's some examples from that. here. So, it has to be fun too, right? We all accept that we're all learning on this new platform, and we can just have some fun with it and just be, laugh together. So, now I'll move to this new program that we've actually launched during the shutdown and the pandemic. Since the museum's been closed, we're very fortunate to receive a grant from the Mellon Foundation to add some programming and resources and connections throughout the community, with people with dementia and care partners. And one of the things that we plan to start in the spring in the museum was a memory cafe. And we just begun talking with our brand new food service providers, Bon Appetit, about the possibility of doing that in our, in the cafe, actually in the cafe, in the museum, and all the different things we do. And when the museum shut down. So we decided to do this anyway, because we thought it's a great way, again, going back to that sense of building community and maintaining community and connection. Oh, and there's Meredith, yes, the slide. We thought it would be a nice informal way, a way where we're using art, we're introducing a theme with art here, but the art is just kind of the way in, the inspiration for a conversation, and the conversation is really meant to be between all the participants, with the educator or the staff member too. So this one from April, I think this was our very first one, focused on, it was the 150th anniversary of the Met. And so we focused on this exhibition that will be on again when the museum reopens, and there's an online version of it called Making the Met, 1870 to 2020. And so we talked about collections a little bit, and objects and meanings, the meanings of those objects and why we collect them. And so we thought we would invite people who came to our Met Memory Cafe to bring with them an object, or it could be just a story that was meaningful to them, and an object with a story, to share and continue the conversation. So here's a screenshot from one of those share outs of a photograph that participants have shared with us, and people talking amongst themselves and laughing. So the works of art shown, which were examples of works in the Met collections and included in the exhibition because of some significant reason they were collected. And so everybody has objects that they've collected or that they've accumulated that have personal significance to them. So we chatted about that. And let's see, a previous slide, we have some stretching. Yes, we always incorporate some stretching in the Met Memory Cafe. I think that's, it's a way to get everyone's blood circulating, and also focusing on, looking at what people around us on the screen are doing too. And we're learning as we go from this experience of the Met Memory Cafe online. But I think the format that we've settled on is pretty interesting and working pretty well. And one really great thing about it is that we can welcome people from all over the country and all over the world, and we have participants from a number of different states and from outside of New York City, within New York State. So it's a really nice way to reach and get to know a broader community and create a broader community. And then finally, I would just speak for a minute about some of the resources that we have and are developing for when we reopen, for people with dementia, for their care partners, for use with groups, for individuals to use both online and in the museum, as experiences to have with family and friends. and also to supplement virtual programs. So we're going to be continuing gathering virtually through the end of December, the end of 2020, even though the museum will be open. So we want to provide resources to help people navigate the museum, tips for visiting. Even if you've been to the Met before, it's going to be a different place when we reopen with different kinds of social distancing and mask wearing, different policies, and different parts of the museum may be closed at different times, different opening hours. So we want to provide that kind of information, but also prompts and guides to help people, have a conversation and find particular works of art that we'll then be talking about together virtually in virtual gatherings. So we'll have some self-guided itineraries that people can use either in the museum if you're comfortable visiting the museum, or on the website if you want to do that from home, or both. And then the option to participate in an online conversation. We'll also be pointing out and bringing to everyone's attention, hopefully, the fact that there's so many online features which now have captions as well, that may be of interest to all kinds of audiences and may help to also supplement those conversations that you're having at home or in the Met's galleries. We're also going to be, well, we've already started actually including on our social media, so say on our Facebook page, the Access at the Metropolitan Museum Facebook page, prompts for art making that we are inviting anyone to participate in. So check those out. So those are just some of the ways that we are looking at kind of blending the virtual programming with online or with visits to the museum in person, even though they won't be in groups and tours and programs in the museum for a while. And that's all I wanted to share with you right now, and I would love if there's time to answer questions, because that was a whiz through quite a few different things. I've included here at the bottom of the screen my email, as well as our general email, access@metmuseum.org. And you can search Met Access to follow us to find our Facebook page as well, where we're posting at least 2 or 3 times a week with different kinds of resources to bring to people's attention, and those art making prompts.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, for sharing all of that very meaty information with us. I think we're a small enough group, so if any of our participants and caregivers would like to ask Rebecca or me a question or have a comment, feel free to unmute yourself. Rebecca, if you would stop sharing your screen, we can see everyone. Thank you. And does anyone have any questions or comments? How many of you have been to Metascapes or tried the memory cafes at the Met? A show of hands? Anyone? So we've got some fresh blood in here. I would strongly encourage you to sign on to the Met's Metascapes program. It's really fun, and the educators are wonderful. They're very warm and understanding people, and they have interesting ways of starting conversations using their collection. And it's as much for you as the caregiver as the people you're caring for. So Rebecca, do you know when the next Metascapes is?
Yes. I know then the theme of the next program is travel, armchair travel, if you will, at this time. And the date is, let's see, I believe it's July 20.
Yeah, great. Well, I would sign up for that, just because armchair travel is really the only way we can get out of this immediate environment and use our imaginations as well. I know the Met has such a wonderful collection of images from all over the world. So I can't wait to hear about how we'll travel and where we'll travel.
Yeah, yeah, I think that should be a really fun one. We're all really excited about it. Another thing we're doing is we had a program on food recently, and food just seems to be, I mean, it's universal, obviously, but it seems to be very people got excited about it, and so we thought it would be fun to put together a Metascapes cookbook, and so we've been inviting people to share their recipes or just a favorite dish and why you like it, and we're going to put those together in a kind of virtual cookbook. So there's a way, we'd love to have contributions from people who are participating in the Metascapes community to, share with each other.
Oh, so that's a wonderful idea. I know I've been trying to be creative about what to cook at home. So I bet there are maybe 1, 2, or maybe even 3 people on this webinar who might have some ideas to contribute. Are there any other questions for either me or Rebecca? Oh, Joanne, go ahead.
Hi, hi Rebecca. I'm Joanne from Brooklyn Botanic Garden. I was wondering if you're utilizing the Zoom breakout rooms when you have people talk about their special objects, or if they are having a conversation about a painting, or is it a bigger group? And if it is a bigger group, how many people do you, or how many boxes do you generally have?
Right, yes, good question. We've tried the breakout rooms and we have used them with some programs, but we found we try to keep things as simple as possible, and the technology, there's so many things that can happen. And so rather than using the breakout rooms for Metascapes, we have multiple conversations going simultaneously. So one educator has their own, Zoom link, and we try not to have more than about, we let, say, 6 groups, 6 screens, as now we call it, 6 screens can sign up. So that might be up to 12 or even more people. That's the max. And then often somebody doesn't show up. So we like to say, 6 to 8 people total is a good number for one educator. So we have multiple simultaneous Zoom conversations going on. And for the Memory Cafe, we have bumped up that number where we have had as many as a dozen. I think we had even more than that. And it's hard to keep up that conversation. And what we've been having waiting lists, and even tried doing a kind of overflow. We might have a second program if too many people sign up, and we'll have that on the next day or in the morning at a different time. But we've, as I say, we've done it, but just given the complexity and the potential for losing people, regardless of the audience, in using these platforms, we haven't done the breakout groups with Metascapes.
What is this program? Who is this program geared to? If I ask. I'm sorry, this is my wife, Millie Levine here. That's me, and there's her aide behind her.
Okay.
And we were interested in this, and Millie has what they call chronic progressive aphasia, and trouble speaking, but she understands everything. And but who are you? What is it? Who is it geared to? Because right now the half hour is almost over, and we haven't really gotten into the dynamics of anything that could hold your attention. And even I was getting a little antsy. Well, where are we? What else is going on? Is this an opening program that we're dealing with?
So I actually, I might respond to that. So this is a webinar, and the purpose of this webinar and the ones we've had before is to really introduce caregivers to the virtual programming that cultural organizations are doing. So this,
caregivers.
well, they're webinars for caregivers. But the program, like Metascapes and like the memory cafes, is that basically for you as the caregiver together with the person you're caring for. So if you were to register for a Metascapes program with the Met Museum, there would be an educator there to walk you through a conversation and perhaps do an interactive activity with you online. So this was really more informational than an actual program, so to speak.
I see.
Yeah. So this is the last of our webinars. If you wanted information about specific programs that you can participate in that are offered by different cultural organizations, actually our cultural partners around New York City, then I would encourage you to go to the Connect to Culture resources page. And there you'll see our previous webinars that were videotaped, and also a lot of the contact information for our cultural partners that you can reach out to.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for joining us. Okay,
Thanks.
we're just
Go
at
ahead.
1:30. Are there any last questions or comments?
Yeah, because then it's about the caregiver.
I see. Thank you for pointing to the chat. Let's see. We have a question from Arthur Nechampkin. When do you think the Met will physically open, and when do you think memory programs will physically open? Thanks.
So the Met is scheduled to reopen on August 29th. So you'll be able to visit the museum physically from the end of August. However, we aren't planning to have gatherings, programs, and tours in the museum through the end of this year, so through the end of December 2020. However, we are going to continue having these, the get-togethers, the conversations, virtually online, and to help people, if people feel comfortable going to the museum as a family or caregiver, and the person you care for, we'll have some resources, say give you a kind of itinerary to find the works of art that we'll be talking about all together virtually, so that you can stand in front of that work of art and talk about it together, and then talk with others about it and with the museum educator virtually. So August 29th, you can get back into the Met, but the gatherings will still be virtual until the new year. And we're not exactly sure when in the new year. Depends completely on our friend, the coronavirus.
Okay, yeah, I think that's actually kind of the ultimate piece of information that everyone is waiting for. I know that a lot of our cultural partners are also working on that. It's still a conversation. It depends on a lot of moving factors, CDC, the Department of Health, and whether these cultural organizations can come up with a system that will ensure and kind of make visitors comfortable to come to the museum and be in even small groups. So yes, we're all waiting for that information, including people who are working for the museums and other cultural organizations. We do have a comment from Bernadette. Bernadette, I'm not sure that I understand your question. Do you feel comfortable just asking it over the mic?
Yeah, my question was to Rebecca. So who are the educators? Are those people who work for the Met, or people who are freelancers for the Met, such as people on a 1099, or are they volunteers? I mean, like, I have a friend who's a docent at the Getty, for example, so I'm going to tell her about this program and ask her whether or not the Getty does this, and probably try to connect the two of you, because I took a picture of your card. Anyway, so my question was, who are the educators? Because right now, a lot of people who are freelance and who are working on sort of a volunteer basis, have not been able to work. So this might be a good thing for people, because I know certain museums are closed. They don't allow anybody to go, or any groups to go.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. So we were able to use contract educators until the beginning of April. We do have a lot. We In Access at the Met, there are 2 educators, myself and my colleague Marie Clapeau, and then we have an administrator. And we did have another administrator and a year-long intern, both of whom are no longer with us, not because they were fired or anything, but the one-year intern finished, Michelle finished at the end of May, and then our program coordinator decided to go to grad school to study social work. So she left us at the same time at the beginning of June. So there are 3 of us on the staff, and since April 1st, the staff of Access, not freelance people or volunteers, have been leading all of the virtual programming that we've been doing. We're just about to be able to use contract educators again, which we're really looking forward to. So very soon, in the next few weeks. And then volunteers, so we have volunteers, we have about, I should first say we have about 20 contract educators who work in Access in different programs. Many work with different audiences. And then we have about between 20 and 30 volunteers who support the program. So they don't teach, but they're very helpful in getting supplies ready and helping with things like guiding or helping people with assistive listening devices, helping to facilitate art making activities, one-to-one and that kind of thing. And so we've been having weekly art chats with our Access volunteers to keep everyone kind of thinking and talking together about art. And we've actually a few of them have been observing the Met Memory Cafe, and we are planning to try having a few of those volunteers to take on the leadership of those conversations. So in the next few months, those will transition, I think, from being staff-led to being volunteer-led, but the program, Metascapes program, will transition from being all staff-led to being led mostly by contract educators, which is back to the way it used to be. Does that help?
That's actually great to know. I know that there are lots of teaching artists who have come through the very comprehensive training that the Met does with their volunteers and docents and educators. They're very good in their training. I think it used to be like a 2-year program, very comprehensive. So they're very skilled in working with Access, the Access populations that they engage. I know that other organizations, museums, botanical gardens, history museums, performing art, now hopefully more performing arts organizations are going to start doing this type of programming because we want to diversify the types of experiences that are available. I know it's a little bit over our half an hour. I do want to respect all of your time, but thank you very much for joining us. We do welcome you back perhaps in the fall for a more extended version of this webinar if I can get all the pieces in place. I do, again, encourage you to follow up with Rebecca, follow up with me. I've put my contact information and our helpline number in the chat. And you can also watch the video of this program if you want to revisit some of those ideas that Rebecca shared with us. So thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you in the near future. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.